So I see a ready from both players. So uh, let's get this first match underway then in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Game number 1 in the top 8 of the Love You, Miss You, Mean It Memorial Tournament, honoring the life and legacy of Jonas Neubauer. The match is between Tegamek or Jesper, as he is listed in the bracket, and David Michael J. Two players that have really just been quite active in the community, doing a lot. Tegamek is a well-known moderator in the Classic Tetris monthly community, and is really just a prominent member of the community. And David Michael J recently just really getting better at the game, really becoming more involved. And we can see that through the start of this match, Jesper is taking a few Tetrises there actually to start things off, 70,000. But David's not letting that, defeat him by taking a nice Tetris there, bring him up to 53,000. So it is a one Tetris game, and with that Tetris there from David is pretty even, but that Tetris there from Tegamek is going to change the score up a little and make it once again a Tetris game. David does have a little messy of a stack compared to what he would like, but that shouldn't be anything that he can't control. We've seen him get out of some pretty impressive situations in the first half of the tournament. But Tegamek is just absolutely going to town right now, Tetris after Tetris at 164,000 through 34 lines, an absolute monster of a pace. Using the DAS playstyle in honor of Jonas Neubauer. We've seen him do quite a lot in terms of being able some crazy DAS maneuvering and DAS control. Another Tetris there brings him to 210,000 through 43 lines. Absolutely amazing pace to start things off. And David with that Tetris going up to 137,000 through 44 lines, which is still a pretty good score to have. Long bar dependency in column 6, but was able to be resolved pretty easily by David with a nice long bar coming along there. And then we see David setting up a E-tuck and executes that very nicely. But now is setting up an LJ dependency, gets that resolved, and then knocks down Tetris. Tegamek on the other hand, still very clean and very nice maneuvering. Nailing a Tetris to hit 303,000 through 61 lines. Currently on pace for a 600k transition. Pretty mid 600k transition at the moment. Bearing no misdrops or anything sticking later on. Some very nice competitive play there from Jesper. And David, a slight slower pace, being at 238 through 72 lines, is still doing very well for sure in a competitive play. And you can see that some of the competitive advantage does lie with Tegamek, as indicated by his pace. But an early lead does not always mean an early victory. David was quite resilient during the first half of the tournament in the top 48 of qualifying scores, being number 8 in the qualifying scores, but also being player that can downstack impressively, as well as cerebrally burn some situations that you might not expect. Well, speaking of burns that you might not expect, Tegamek there with a burn that might have cost a little bit of efficiency in the grand scheme of things, but when you're on a pace like this, a pretty comfortable scenario. But has had a few little burns, which is bringing him a little lower than he probably would like to be, but nonetheless is still keeping it competitive. And David, behind by a little over 100,000 points now, is looking just to keep it clean, going into the last 30 lines of 18 play. Both players at 103 lines, And with that Tetris, Tegamek gonna go up to 475 now. So pretty close to a 500k through quite a bit. So still has a little bit of the pace lead as well as there. Armin Sounds, thank you for the subscription to Classic Tetris, much appreciated. And David, looking over, has a little bit of an issue in his stack. Not the end of the world, can do some nice burning to get out of this. With that T is going to perfectly resolve the issue, but with 14 lines of transition, has a little bit to think about in terms of creating a hole in his stack and the parity issues that are going there. But he's gonna tackle the issue where it's happening very nicely, like I said, with his cerebral burns. And he's gonna take that Tetris. And it has one more available Tetris for a couple burn lines. Is going to decide to burn into the transition at 403,000, and Jesper transitioned at 550, around 550,000. So about 150,000 point lead going into the transition for Tegamek. Very comfortable, but not where you can just kind of disregard any post-transition play. And we're seeing Tegamek immediately doing some very smart burns to keep the stack clean, low, and healthy, while David does have not the best stack at the moment. David cleaning it up now. Perfect dash management to get that piece over. Needs a little something for his board, but Parity's going to strike there and kind of harm him. Nonetheless, still burning through, which is allowing Jesper to take a 200,000 point lead through level 22. So David's gonna need Tegamek to do something crazy and top out now if he wants to have a chance at taking game number 1. And Tegamek at 666,000 currently has a very comfortable lead. Because of this, he knows that he can have the opportunity to then take a few more burns than you'd usually do in a competitive matchup. David's just trying to get set up for a nice Tetris. And with that, he's going to set up the Tetris and nail it for 488,000 through level 24. A little indecision there from David. And with that, you can only go so far with indecision. But beautiful, clean resolve there from David. So we give a score update for our players. Tegamek through 191 lines is at 736,000. And David through 190 lines is at 499,000. So Jesper pretty much can just take this to level 29 and be comfortable. Unless David just plays the most efficient Tetris he's ever played. Also only the first game of the first first game in the first set. So players might be a little nervous and might not be all the way warmed up. So that's why you could see a little more burning, perhaps, from a player. But anyways, David's going to top out at 515,000. So Tegamek is good for game number 1 at 795,000. Let's give Jesper his first heart. The GG's there for you, Jesper. You can play it out because you have kill screen right there. So GG's, and we can get this going on the next one when both players are ready for game number 2. This is a best of 5 between these players here. We have a ready from Tegamek, and just needed a ready from David. Once you are ready, don't feel rushed, of course. We have ready for this game number 2 in this best of 5 between the players in. I'm down in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. So Jesper definitely probably feeling a little confident after that first game. And David now knows what he has to pull off for the second game to go the distance and make this as competitive as possible, force his way into the next round of the semifinals of this tournament. Megamech board starting off a little difficult, but not bad whatsoever, by cleaning out of that situation very nicely. But David already has a Tetris on the board, so Jesper's going to counter and take a Tetris himself there. So we are pretty much even through 12 lines at this point, but anything can happen as there are still 115 before transition. Both players there, waiting for a long bar at this point. David did score another Tetris, but Jesper desperately waiting for that long bar now, getting droughted, but unfortunately has to take a burn line when that comes because his right well was blocked. David Michael J does have has less than a 1-off from a max out. While Jesper is a very dominant player. And Tetris there for Jesper, back into the lead, but also is ahead by 2 lines. But has it. Oh, beautiful last second adjustment there from David. Really amplifying things and making it where he is able to continue to strongly go through and score another Tetris to be back in the lead. Being tied momentarily, David with that Tetris is going to jump into the lead now, and Jesper is desperately waiting for something to help out his situation. He's gonna have to do a little bit of burning. Not a game-ending scenario for a player like Jesper, but as someone playing DAS, you have to be a little more careful when you get to a situation like that. A beautiful quick tap there from Tega, though. It's gonna really help him just get situated. And as a reminder, quick taps are a versatile tool used by DAS players, so it is not considered cheating in the playstyle. It is something that is very helpful for a DAS player to use if in a rough situation, like Megamech was just in himself. But Jesper still just waiting for a long bar at this point. Have to do some burning, and it's going to allow for David to take a really nice lead now at 258,000 through 75 lines. So kind of the mirroring, or kind of a reverse mirror image of last game now, with the 2 players swapping. David trying for a spin tuck, and unfortunately didn't get it, but it's going to have to do a little bit of burning to get out. Shouldn't be the end of the world by any means, but it's going to leave a much tougher board than he would have hoped for. And David almost cleaned out of that completely, but Jesper, now completely clean, needs a long bar to score Tetris to bring it kind of back to David's dig situation that he was just in. Jesper was able to kind of catch up a little and only make it a 3 Tetris game at the moment. And a Tetris there for Tegamech is going to help things out, but David's going to counter with the Tetris there to bring the deficit back to where it was just moments ago. Megamech back into a little dig situation, has a hole on the left that he would like to kind of resolve. And a beautiful placement of that J. Honestly, shows why Tegamek has played with the likes of the greats himself. And could be even regarded as one in a little bit of more playing, for sure. And with the transition looming, Tegamek at 265,000 and David at 365,000 are looking to kind of just get their boards in order. Jesper kind of shooting for Tetris right there after transitioning to 314,000 through 117 or 137 lines. David waiting for one more Tetris potentially before the transition, and with that is going to transition at 413,000. So about a 100,000 point game going into transition. A little nicer than last game, but David cannot let up the throttle whatsoever. David getting a little high with DAS, but some solid B-type practice could definitely prepare you for something like this. I don't know how much that's gonna really help there. And David's gonna top out at 424,000, so Jesper needs to get the 425. But Jesper isn't going to, and he's gonna top out there at 383,000, so we have even things up then, with David taking his first heart of the set. So GG's. Yes, for sure a suffer game there for Jesper to the left. And Tigo's ready after that game. Already in the chat already. So just need one from David. To quote one of my favorite restreamers in the community, you can just see the pain in his eyes after that suffer game. David just taking a quick moment to recompose himself. And they're ready from David, so let's count them down for game number 3. In 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Tied at 1 apiece. Either player is looking for a momentum-changing win in this game number 3 of this best of 5. Jesper for sure, looking to kind of just demonstrate why he is the number 1 seed in the tournament. Qualifying with a DAS 1.1. Already having some clean play, Tetris on the board. Needs a piece to help resolve that LJ dependency, but is going to use a T piece to block things off. Not the best, as he's going to have to burn, but probably one of the smarter situations he could have done given the fact he didn't have an L or J. Now, because of that little 4-line burn that Jesper had to do, David is going to take a quick lead at the moment, but is only ahead by a very slight amount, as Jesper nails a Tetris there. Even things up quite a little bit. And with that Tetris there from Jesper and a dig situation set up potentially from David, things could be looking a little more promising for Tega going into the next few lines. But a beautiful dirty Tetris there from David. Might have been a dirty triple then. Quite sure. counted that correctly, looking at his score change. Either way, David nailing another Tetris. Kind of bring it closer once again. Has a square tuck set up, and I don't know if it's going to go for... He's going to build for a dirty. Back open on the right. But with that, is down by a couple Tetrises now. Burning that down. For the longevity of play, probably the smart decision. But for the immediate pace, it looks a little devastating. David ready for another one. And they're going to nail simul Tetrises. Beautiful, beautiful execution there. The LYMYMI Tournament stands for the Love You, Miss You, Mean It. This was a phrase coined by Jonas and Heather during one of their streams after it was referenced in a video game that they were playing on stream that day. The community adopted it as a way to pay remembrance to Jonas from his passing. David with some beautiful dash management there that actually dig out of the situation. Is gonna nail Tetris, but Megamek kind of just was on a little roll there. 333,000 through 73 lines. Not quite as strong as the pace of the first game, but definitely a stronger pace than the second game for him. And David, well, David's pretty has a pretty nice pace for a competitive match, but unfortunately, playing against a player like Jesper, you have to go above and beyond to really maximize your scoring potential. And David at 289,000 through 84 lines. Trying, but RNG's kind of not favoring him in this. While Jesper getting some beautiful pieces to accommodate his already beautiful board. While a Tetris there from David's going to help out, has to play really comfortably the last 40 lines before transition. If he wants to be in a really good position to potentially take game number 3 and have the momentum going into the next match. Jesper creating a dependency, but fills it immediately with some beautiful piece placement there. And David at 361,000, 100 lines. Not necessarily where you would want to be pace-wise when you're against a player like Tegamek, but can definitely pull out a strong transition from this. And has the potential for a very strong post-transition play. Jesper doing some clean burns, being ahead by 70,000 now. Has the runway slightly to take care of this. Little suboptimal placement from David, but is going to handle this very well. Not set up for a dirty Tetris, not going to risk his stack going into the transition in 13 lines now. Very smart play there, and Jesper going through a little bit of a burn with 12 lines of transition. Shouldn't be an issue, should be cleaned up no problem before then. But you have to think like how much stress this adds onto you as a player. At 510,000 now, can still pull off a almost 600k transition if he plays pretty clean, but that burn is going to change that, and he's going to have one more potential Tetris, get to a mid 500 transition, and David transitions at 484,000, and Jesper transition at 537, so David's really closed the gap and really strengthened his play going into the transition, but that Tetris there from Tegamek is going to kind of help out his cause there by creating about an 80,000 point gap, so about 3.5 Tetrises at the moment, going into level 20 scoring. And beautiful stack for Tegamek is going to allow for him to take that Tetris with ease. Luck there for David. Looked a little scary, but got a beautiful piece. It's going to take the triple. David does have the opportunity to play a little more conservative than the first game because of the score differential not being as much, but you also don't want to just take burn after burn and give your opponent a free victory. And beautiful dash management allows for him to get that long bar over. And David's still just taking the safe burns. So it's allowed for there to be about a 90,000 point deficit now. But it's only through level 22, so in theory, if something was to happen to Jesper, something could really kind of help David come back with a few Tetrises. But Tetris there for Tega, bringing him to 678,000. But Tetris for David's gonna just kind of even things back up to where it was. About a 100,000 point game now, with 4 levels for Das, really to do anything on scoring. And David with the Tetris there, keeping it where it was. You have to think Jesper's feeling a little comfortable now as they're kind of just moving along to level 25. Meaning there's less and less room for someone to catch up by 120,000 point difference now. But David, this isn't going to let David just stop in his tracks. He's going to continue to play this to the best of his ability. And unfortunately, it's going to mean a top out at 654,000. So Jesper is good for game number 3. He'll be taking his second heart of the set. Some very strong play there from David in the transition. Unfortunately, Jesper playing some very strong Tetris as well. Allow for a potential max out opportunity for Tega. Has 3 available Tetrises at the moment before kill screen. But knows he can't get that over with Das. And is going to top out with 921,000. But good games from both players. And we have ready for game number 4 from Tiger Mech. So we just need one then from David Michael J. Good. For the game number 4 in the quarterfinal matchup between Tiger Mech and David. And we have it ready from David. So let's count them down for this game number 4 set up in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. So, Tiger Mech with a single to start things off and a Tetris there. Meanwhile, a triple and a Tetris for David, kind of even the odds there, but another Tetris for Tiger Mech, immediately making things a little nicer. And David's going to take a triple there. You have to wonder what's going through David's mind, knowing that there's a lot of pressure on him now to make things a little nicer going into the Force A decider in game number 5 potentially. David with a very cerebral burn setup there, allowing for him to potentially efficiently transfer his game to be a little more aggressive without losing a lot of efficiency. But a beautiful tug of the square there from Tega, and Tetris is going to really help things out there. Ideally, Tega would like to end this in 4 games, make it so he has just that much more energy going into the next into the semifinals against the winner of either Quaid or Mark. But David doesn't want to be counted out yet. Wants to force the decider and show the community why he is in this tournament to begin with. To honor and support both Jonas, his family, and the DAS playstyle that Jonas perfected. David, with some very high play, is putting some pieces really nicely into places I wouldn't have thought, but is doing very well. Get to the situation to do just that. And after this matchup, I will update the command. I thought I put a command for that. Guess not. For the bracket. Nonetheless, thank you, Barrett, for that. But nonetheless, David kind of in a little dig situation again, looking for a beautiful L piece there, and gets it right when I mention it. Going to continue to burn this out, but it's going to allow for Pega to really take a nice lead, 231,000 through 67 lines. Going to kind of force David to play a little more aggressive going into the second. And there is a command for the GoFundMe. So thank you for demonstrating that. So if you want to donate to the Jonas Neubauer Memorial Fund, please, you can type !GoFundMe in the chat, and the Classic Tetris bot will direct you to that link. David getting out of that dig pretty cleanly, actually now is kind of transferring it to Jesper. Ooh, and that placement of the T is going to be very difficult. It's going to create kind of an unwanted dig situation when you're only a couple Tetrises ahead now. But with authority handles that dig, no problem. Very efficiently, very clean. And subscription from L, thank you so much. Folks over at Classic Tetris do appreciate it. Very sure of that. Hope you're doing wonderful today. Unfortunately, David does have to do a little bit of burning if he wants to keep his board health in a very nice state. But that J is going to really help things out. Speaking of J's that are helpful, the J there for Tega was beautiful as it allowed him to kind of just clean things up, but now has a square long bar LJ dependency set up and is going to solve that with two L's back to back. And, well, is in a much cleaner state now. David with a tuck or spin set up, an S spin or a J tuck, and is going to go for the J tuck. Has about 8 lines to go until transition. And with that, 9 lines of transition for Tega at 399,000, and with that Tetris is going to be at 421,000 through 125 lines. So not going to be a transition that he wants, but going to be about, a comfortable lead over David at the moment. While David transitioned into the mid 300,000s, and beautiful kind of burst of long bars there to really help out David, bringing him up to 387,000 through 140 lines. Few Tetris deficit going into level 20. Not the end of the world by any means, if anything was to happen. It's still something that David could chase down and make something really out of. Jesper's board right now, not really showing that. Beautiful stack going into level 20, but has to set up a little bit of a delayed burn not covering the right well, but covering a hole in the middle because of RNG. But Jesper is a very, very good player. Solve that no problem. Gonna take a Tetris, but then set up a couple more burns, allowing for David, if given the proper pieces, to potentially catch up. But looking over at David's board now, we see that things aren't looking so hot. Kind of in a similar situation that Tego was just in. It looks like a little misplacement there from David. And, ooh, we have 5 gift subs, so thank you so much for those. For the Classic Tetris channel. And Tega with some very beautiful placements there, creating an LJ dependency. Just that, but it's going to fill it with a long bar instead. And at 600,000, feeling comfortable with a few levels left to the second transition then. Another Tetris there, the 634, really helping him feel like he has a strong commanding lead at the moment. But if anything was to happen, it's still something David could chase down, and demonstrated by that Tetris there. It has a little spire in his stack of a square burst that kind of created it. But we're still seeing David have the wherewithal and just the tenacity to hang in there with a player like Tega. But now, that Tetris eliminating the 200,000 point lead that Tega had momentarily. David just needs long bar or that's an L. Resolve that. And does get it. But now setting up another dependency. Just has to start throwing things to the right now because he can't block off the left or he will top out. But it looks like Jesper getting a little high. I think it's to a point where no matter what happens, the game is in his favor unless David sets up for like 5 kill screen Tetrises. And with that, David is going to top out. So, taking the first set, 3-1, we have the first win of the top 8. And Jesper will be advancing to the semifinals to play the winner of either Quaid or I do believe it's winner of Quaid or Mark, which we will set up for now. So while we do that, just enjoy some quick music. Shouldn't be too long to set up. Okay, everything should be all set up now. Check to see if the bracket is updated. And it is not. Well, that is okay. Should be updated in a minute or two. So we're gonna just switch over then to our next scene where we have another exciting matchup set up. We have Quaid, who is taking on Mark. Mark, one of the other organizers of this tournament, a prolific DAS player as well as a prolific PAL player, who has many 700k plus scores on PAL. And Quaid, we all know and love Quaid. One of the veterans of the community who has been there, who has really helped grow, who did beat Tugi to get here. The flag for Mark is the flag of the Philippines. We have a ready from Quaid and Steve. Specifically ready from Quaid and a ready from Mark. So let's just get going. Let's reset the hearts really quick before we count them down. My bad. Okay, let's do it now in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. We've having quite a few maxes and warm-ups, and has been playing very consistent Tetris over the past few days, warming up and preparing for this tournament over on him and Steve's channel. And Mark, well, Mark's been playing very consistent Tetris for quite a while. The switches between Hell and NTSC quite a bit, so we'll see if that has any impact on his play. Already, both players kind of burning a fair bit going into this, but doesn't seem to be affecting either of them quite all that much, as Mark nails the Tetris there, bringing him up to 737,000, and Quaid bringing out some of his signature plays, setting up a not right well, not necessarily a left well being one of his signatures, but does do it from time to time, being a safe scenario. And that left ball is still pretty manageable and safe with DAS at the moment. But Wade is going to lower it to a pretty safer Tetris setup there. Nails it. And is going to transfer it perfectly to a right well transfer. But Mark is Tetris ready and does have a little over Tetris lead at the moment. Mark's going to just continue to take some safe burns, knowing the pace of this matchup at the moment. Lots of support in the chat for Quaid. Lots of TWO emotes flying high. Quaid is repping the TWO shirt today, as you can see there in the camp. Quaid setting up a little oof setup in his stack, if I have to say so. Costing him a little bit of efficiency, but he is a very strong player and can handle this pretty well, I would say so. Mark is going to take advantage of that by setting up for a Tetris. Needs a long bar. Not getting the long bar, but here it comes and he knocks down a Tetris. 290,000 for Mark, going in the 64 lines. And Quaid's at 176,000 through 67 line. So a little bit of pace difference, a little bit of score difference, but neither player definitely has a distinct advantage over the other, as both players are very strong and classic uh, players in the Classic Tetris scene. Both players are very strong, know some interesting solves to some interesting digs, and you'll see throughout this, hopefully, set of matches, players push each other to their limits, and really just make the most out of the situation. And a beautiful column 4 Tetris there for Quaid, bringing him up to 250,000 through 86. And another one right there for Quaid, and fortunately it has to cover the hole. The one thing you love to see anytime you know Quaid's playing, he's having a blast. Him and Steve are having fun together. And it's something that Jonas would looks down upon us with right now and just smiles knowing that. As that's what he did when he would play Tetris. Stream. He was streaming on his channel. We were in a very neck and neck situation with Mark just absolutely going to town there, scoring quite a few Tetrises that make it a 80,000 point game. But with that Tetris, Wade's lowering that deficit slightly, but has a much more difficult stack. Especially with transition to 15 lines, Quaid's going to spend probably a majority of this cleaning and making sure everything is in a situation to go into a clean transition. And just like I said, that is what just happened. As Quaid, setting up for a center well Tetris, go into the transition. But Mark at 435,000 has, a comfortable lead going into the position. But Quaid is not a player to be counted out, as you'll see the next 100 lines, as he's a player that can comfortably play on 19 speeds and will blow your mind with some of his maneuvering. But Mark right now, just very strong 19 play, starting things off for the first 10 line. Up at 490,000. Trying to keep it clean, keep it efficient. Quaid opens up the center well. Needs a long bar. And Quaid's gonna nail the center well Tetris on level 20 to go to 21. But then kind of a little misdrop scenario there for Quaid, unless it was a very cerebral placement, which is very possible from a player like him. You see that Mark sets up for another Tetris and nails it. 554 to Quaid's 419. So Mark does have a comfortable lead now at the moment, going into level 22. And another Tetris there from Mark, just kind of make things a little more comfortable. It's not, a very... It's not a very large lead to have, but it's a lead that provides a little bit of leeway and run room or runway if you need to burn. Wade is playing quite aggressive. Unfortunately, in his pre-19 RNG alongside that didn't really pay off. Was having a slightly better time. Needs to get that piece over and beautifully executes that with his dash man. Some of the best in Tetris at the moment. Now just waiting for a long bar to nail another Tetris. But it's getting a little high, so it was going to have to burn. For a tapper, that might not be an issue, but for Das, it's getting up to the limits of the play style. And another Tetris there for Quaid. Mark at almost 700,000 points. Showing why he's made it this far into the tournament. as a prolific fan, as well as the creator of the NTSC DAS server, where the playstyles highlights are archived. Oh, but Mark's gonna top out at 703,000, so Quaid needs to get to 704,000 to take this, and has the potential to do so, just needs some very efficient play. And a dirty Tetris there for Quaid. Beautiful pole vault. Quaid cannot really afford to burn all that much, but that one time has one more Tetris before transition. Needs a long bar, but he doesn't have a Tetris set up. He's gonna top out at 681,000. So that means Mark takes the first heart. Definitely hard fought from Quaid up until the very end. And Toogie coming in with the raid, thank you so much. Raid, and we are just getting ready for game number 2. We have ready from both players, so let's count them down. In 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Quaid is ready after that. RNG kind of screwing him over in the end, but nonetheless, pushing to the very end. Yuki coming in with the rooting for Quaid, as he was the one who lost to Quaid to get to the quarterfinals. Quaid, beautiful stack at the moment. Next on that Tetris. Mark just kind of still building things out. For a fraction of a second later. Beautiful dig situation there from Quaid. You can't expect anything but that from a player who's played as long and consistent as Quaid. Meanwhile, Mark has a Tetris on the board, but kind of not good pieces for how his board is set up at the moment. So it's gonna nail a Tetris there and opens up the hole. A beautiful burn. Take the lead. Quaid just getting getting droughted, waiting for a long bar. Needs the long bar. He finally gets it and nails a Tetris there, but Mark's gonna take one simultaneously and score to keep the lead. But Quaid knocks down another Tetris. And another one for Quaid to take the lead back, but also is ahead by 8 lines now. So there is a difference in pace, as you can see. A Tetris for Mark, but a 10,000 point difference and a 7 line difference. It's gonna play quite the difference and quite the role in this matchup. Tetris there for Quaid. Mark. Both players honestly stacking very nice and very cleanly for the first 50 lines, and a Tetris there for Mark, taking the lead back. And we have long bar dependency on the right for Quaid, but no long bar coming, and Mark had one too, and scored a Tetris, and has another one set up, and nails another Tetris, 221,000 through 55 lines for Mark to Quaid's 175,000 through, well, let's make it 198,000 through 65 lines. So not quite, with a little more efficient play, Quaid still could squeeze out a mid 400k transition. With some really efficient play, Quaid could squeeze it out. And we have a raid from Heist, thank you so much. You're just in time to watch the meat of this game number 2 between Quaid and Mark. we have a beautiful stack on both sides, so honestly, it can still go either way. Beautiful, beautiful play from Quaid to forward, flat, clean. Very accommodating, and Mark has probably one of the most accommodating boards that a player could have at the moment. Has very nice parity and not really much to worry about. Mark's gonna nail Tetris there. Probably hoping to score a little bit more. That's one thing you'll notice with Mark is very clean, very precise stacking. And sometimes that's something that we lose sight of in the Classic Tetris scene, when there's a lot of people who have creative, interesting stacking techniques. But Mark always keeping parity at the forefront of his play, always making sure everything is ready, everything can be accommodated somehow. And say the same for Quaid, honestly, just kind of a couple of rough games. Oh no, and with that, Quaid just needs 1,000 more points. A single, I think, will put him above. No, sorry. And now, okay, Quaid somehow managed to squeeze out a victory out of a couple burned lines. So Quaid is going to take his first heart of the set. Just for asking, will the top 8 be played, like all these quarterfinals be played, and then the semifinals? I believe as it was planned, it was to go through with all of the top 8 quarterfinals matches, and then the 2 semifinal matches, and then the finals. We have a ready from Quaid, and we have a ready from Mark. So let's count them down for this game number 3. In 3, 2, 1, and we have a Goth Girls for Quaid in the chat. That is actually a throwback to the first week of the tournament when Quaid came into that over on Peyton on Tetris and just started making jokes about goth girls, and yeah. So obviously Quaid has gained quite the following from the goth Tetris community. I'm kidding. But nonetheless, just something fun, and so it shows something wholesome and about the love for each other in this community. And Steve replying to that, saying we're feeling the goth girl love. What we're missing right now is kind of just giving little updates for Mark. Beautiful down sloping stack there is really going to be helpful, and nails a Tetris 53,000 through 17 lines. And Quaid has an interesting setup. Let's take the Tetris there. And a beautiful Tetris there from Mark. Mark does have a square dependency or an LJ, but he's going to fill it with the square. Probably need to refresh his stream actually. Okay, there it goes. And 6-4 with the rate of 10. Thank you so much. You're just in time for the bulk of this matchup between Quaid and Mark. We are only in game number 3, and the way these two have been pushing each other, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes to game number 5. Quaid plays a little unconventionally, because instead of trying to think of like all the theoretical options, Quaid just does what is needed of him and get the board the next state. As demonstrated there with that beautiful Tetris. 163,000 for Quaid to 157,000 for Mark. So we are neck and neck in this third game already. Oh, and shoutouts to Grand Designs for taking the second 6-4 invitational tournament. Congratulations to that, and I'm not surprised at all to hear that, as you are one of the most consistent players I've seen recently. Quaid managing a 234,000 score at the moment through 68 lines, and a Tetris there, the 258. Has a 2 Tetris lead over Mark at the moment. Mark is gonna take a interesting set of piece placements there. Take the double and clean it up with, you know, having plenty of time in the world to do so. Mark has some very nice cleaning. When his stack does get into a little rough situation, he is able to pull out very consistent, clean stacking to dig out, really make things that much better. Some players, when faced with a tough dig, will kind of just panic and top out, but Mark, as we've seen today, just focuses, able to hold on to that and set up a situation to where he can score Tetris like that after a little bit of a dig and a little bit of an adjustment period. Quaid having probably one of his stronger games of this quarterfinal so far, probably the strongest game of his quarterfinal. 400,000 through 103 lines. And a Tetris there to 107, definitely aiming for at least a 500k transition, which is better than his first couple games. So it's something to definitely feel a little more comfortable with, but not too comfortable to where the whole difference is highlighted. Mark still cleaning a little, but beautiful setup actually. Really running with this, making the most out of it. Up for a dirty Tetris. This could be a little risky, but he's going to take the burn. Getting droughted and gets the long bar, nails the dirty Tetris. And Quaid hits the 500k mark with that Tetris and has potentially 2 more Tetrises to go before the actual transition. But now only has 1. And then Mark is actually going to transition there at 353,000 and a Tetris immediately after. And Quaid transitions at 541,000, so we have a little over 100,000 point difference going into the transition. Beautiful pole vault there for Quaid. Both players having some very impeccable post-transition play today. Especially in this game, specifically. Very beautiful tucks, some very beautiful pole vaults. Like that pole vault there from Quaid that we just saw. It's absolutely impressive. Executed so quickly. Mark set up for a Tetris. And he's going to nail that 464,000 now through 159 lines. Has the opportunity to really come back if Quaid does have to do a little bit of burning. But Quaid with the center well set up now is going to nail it and take the Tetris. Both players showing why they are in this tournament and made it this far, this play. Quaid's dash management, Mark's stacking, both be recognize and to show why they are so great at this game. Another center well set up for Quayton's gonna nail the Tetris. 705,000 now through 177 lines. Without saying the word, I'd say this is a pretty good pace for post-transition. And another center well Tetris there for Quaid to bring it to 736,000. Mark at 598,000, having a pretty good post-transition run himself. Quaid just kind of waiting it out, doing some burning. And another center well Tetris there for Quaid, 803,000 now through level 25. Definitely a more comfortable scenario to be in for sure. If you're Quaid, but not something you can still fully discount, as Mark is only through 26 and could still score quite a bit with that Tetris. Is at 707,000 himself now. Quaid is going to kind of burn out of this very efficiently. One of the scary things about DAS is when you're in a situation with a left well dependency or some kind of hole on the left. But Mark kind of misdropped a piece there, so even with it being this close, he only has one Tetris potentially there, but gonna need the long bar and is not gonna score Tetris. So Quaid at 858,000 will take game number 3. Beautiful survival there from both players at the especially at the end of that game there. So GG's to both players. Definitely some of the most exciting DAS play that I've seen in a while for sure. Their management is just out of this world. So we have a ready from Quaid. I just had to see. We have a ready from Mark, and we have a ready from Mark. So let's get this going for game number 4 in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. You just have to think of the party that will be had if Quaid does win this tournament. Probably will be one of the most iconic ever to be seen in the Tetris community. Quaid starting things off with a Tetris and pushdown points. Mark also taking a Tetris, but it has a single headed onto this. And another Tetris there for Quaid. Mark waiting for a long bar now. Not getting it. But it's early enough, and it's there where we can get simul Tetris. 73,000 for Quaid through 18 lines. Pretty good. Say so myself. And Mark at 50,000 through 14. Has a couple burns set up. Needs the piece and gets it. Now creates a long bar dependency pretty high up. Can be a little risky, but Mark is getting out of it and creating something really high up on the left. But nailed the Tetris! And another Tetris for Mark, and he's going to make the left well accessible now. He just needs the long bar to slide over there. He's going to opt to do something else instead. Very interesting maneuver there for Mark. Nonetheless, he's going to start burning it out. He knew that he needed to burn it, and he decided that the left must have been the way to go about that. What I mean by cerebral, like those are plays that I wouldn't even have imagined. But now parity's a little of an issue there for Mark. He's gonna have to do a little extra burning to get out of it. And while Quaid with that Tetris there taking a little more definite of a lead, about a 3 Tetris 2.5 Tetris lead going in at the moment. And as we see, Mark set up for another Tetris. Just needs... Ooh, beautiful placement of the J. And Longbar comes and he knocks down the Tetris. Quaid having a few holes in his stack. He's gonna have to resolve this quick. It takes the triple to actually resolve that with ease. And one thing that we are noticing right now is Mark very comfortable, very precise stacking. He's gonna knock down 2 Tetrises in a row, but Quaid's gonna knock down Tetris. 254,000 through 63 lines for Quaid. A pretty comfortable pace, I would say, for a competitive match. And Mark at 197,000 through 65 lines. Also one there. And the beautiful dirty Tetris setup for Mark is going to just look absolutely amazing there. And as we see, Mark is set up for another one and is going to nail it. Simul Tetrises for both players. Absolutely impressive when that happens, because it just means like the boards have to be in such a very nice state there, where they can both afford to do so. And a Tetris there for Mark. Mark now has a Longbar dependency. It's resolved. And I actually opt to do it without even invoking the Longbar. Very impressive stacking. But Quaid's not going to be shut down. Quaid is having quite the game himself. Looks like Quaid's just going to continue to really put this in a nice scenario. Nice cleaning. While Mark has the Longbar dependency and is going to fill it and get really out of that. Very nice RNG to help him with that dependent stack. And a Tetris there for Quaid. 108 lines and 448,000. Something that's pretty comfortable for a player like him. Mark, 354,000 with that Tetris, 376,000 through 113 lines. So keeping it within, you know, a close enough distance that he can actually do something with the game. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if we saw another double kill screen game from these players, as they are both absolutely impressive. Are stacking very nicely. It's just a matter of the burning there really dictating the game. And a Tetris there for Quaid. Has a little rough situation now with transition looming. He's gonna have to take a take a Tetris there and deal with the board immediately after transitioning here. Yeah, 130 lines to 525,000. Mark with that Tetris is at 477,000 through 137 lines, so Mark is catching up pretty nicely with some very efficient clean play there. But ooh, a misshift of the square. Gonna cause a little bit of a headache there for Mark, but not something he can't get out of, as we've already seen today. It's very nice stats management. And a beautiful one row dirty Tetris there for Mark. And a center welt for Quaid. This is a very close game, only separated by a few Tetrises. Quaid doing his usual levels of aggression at what's needed for competitive play at higher levels. And Mark also playing pretty aggressive, knowing that he has to push Quaid to a limit to potentially force a top out, or to a point where he takes a clear lead. Oh, but that's going to be it for Mark. as he tops out at 534,000. So Quaid is good and takes game number 4. We have GG's in the chat for both players. And I love seeing people promoting the GoFundMe in the chat. Well, there is the exclamation point GoFundMe command. If you would like to donate at all to the Jonas Neubauer Memorial Fund, anything helps Heather and family, just as losing someone is expensive. There's a lot of moving costs to get rid of things. There's a lot of expenses that can take a toll. So any donation on the GoFundMe would be appreciated. And the command for that is exclamation point GoFundMe, all one word. So we're just going to allow for Quaid to play this out, and then we'll set up the next scene, which will be Svavar and Marcos. So as we do that, talk about the legacy of Jonas. Jonas has been a player that has impacted a lot of us. He has provided a platform for people to meet each other, get to know each other, and to love each other. The Classic Tetris community would not be where it is without him. We have a lot to thank him for that. But outside of that, he is absolutely just been an impactful person in the community, and losing him has been tough on all. As we just bring that up, go set up the next scene, go view the bracket to see if the bracket has been reflected at all, and as we see, we have the current standings of the bracket. So our next match will be Svavar and Marcos. So get that scene set up for sure right now. Okay, we are all set up for the next matchup now. So let's get them shown, and we can get things underway. We have Morkos and Svavar, both players who demonstrated things. Oh, so for what does 27 mean after Matt Martin's name? Well, that was just his qualifying seed. Based on the 1 hour up to 1 qualifier. We have another veteran playing thing here. Okay, you're been welcome. Balbar has an impressive max out on his qualifying. You know, also at a 1.1 during his qualifier, but I want to say on his scoreboard at the moment. So both players just getting in a little warm up. Totally understandable. Svavar in with the ready. So once Morkos is ready, we can get this underway. We have readies from both players. Let's count them down. In 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Already about an hour and a half into the tournament today, we've had a matchup between Quaid and Mark go pretty far, 3-1 for Quaid, as well as Tyga versus Tyga winning the first one as well, going 3-1 against David. Both players starting off with Tetrises, and both players have 9 lines cleared. Both players having gone now a little bit of difference in their play. Things were starting off pretty similar for both players. I had to do a little bit of burning. Balbar cleaning up pretty nicely in this situation, giving the RNG that was happening and set up for another Tetris, and he's gonna nail it, but then Morko's also gonna take it there. While this game is just getting underway, I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to come and just show appreciation for the Classic Tetris community, to where we are by supporting our community, supporting one family who meant a great deal to us. Having the opportunity to do this on Classic Tetris both will hopefully allow for us to fundraise a little bit for the family through the GoFundMe, as well as just provide more entertainment to a larger community on the Classic Tetris channel. Very thankful to have this opportunity. Thank you, Vince, for working with us on this tournament. And back to the play, we have some beautiful task management both sides. We have a Tetris actually there for Morkos on the left, or on the right, and Svavar one on the left. Wow, it's so exciting, I can't even tell the difference between my left and right. You love when gameplay is that good. And another Tetris there for Svavar, bringing him back into the lead, but also has about a Tetris difference in lines. So we're seeing a pretty tightly contested match. A triple there for Morko's gonna kind of just set the scene there. And another one. Love to see when they have 269,420 points at the same time. Such a very large score to have them be equal through, so that's very impressive. And Tetris there for Marcos, and Tetris there for Svavar. They're scoring it, they're neck and neck. Oh, a little mischief there of the J. It's going to be a little annoying. Not the end of the world by any means. It's just going to cause a little deficit. A little bit of pace differential. Playing some actual, like, very nice, let's say that's 18-3 level fight. To get out of it. Well, Svavar is taking the opportunity to score. Has a couple Tetris lead. Beautiful tuck of the T. Is going to potentially just keep running with this, and needs a couple more pieces for a Tetris, and gets the long bar to score Tetris. You know, Marcos has a dirty Tetris set up, it just needs the long bar. Still has it set up even after having to burn a little bit, but it's not coming. He's getting droughted, and Svavar's gonna score another Tetris during this, but he's still getting droughted. He's gonna have to cover it. Still no long bar. He's... I don't even know how many pieces it's been. But he finally gets it and is going to nail the dirty Tetris. Absolute horrendous RNG getting him to that situation. But playing like an absolute trooper, keeping the board clean, keeping calm during that situation. And because of that, is going to still keep it somewhat competitive. Only 100,000 point differential, and that's because of RNG not giving him the opportunity to score and having to take more burns than a less efficient play. At 419,000 now, so Svavar at 494,000, definitely on pace, obviously, for a 500k transition. With a Tetris at 516, we'll hit the 500k transition mark. And Marcos actually still could almost squeeze it out, but unfortunately not going to. Ooh, and a little mischief right before transition, and transitions at 489,000. Oh, little rough post-transition jitters there from Marcos. It looks needs a long bar and needs it now. Another long bar can save his game. Oh, and unfortunately is going the top out at 491,000. I must have forgotten to switch the flags there. The GG's from both players there. So GG's, let's give Svavar his first heart. We have a ready for Svavar, and we have a ready from her. So put them down in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Both players already off to a start. Obviously, none of them scoring yet. They're trying to be the most efficient in the way that they can by taking early Tetrises and not having the burn at the start, but you'll see that sometimes you have to, just like more good there on the right. Despite, you know, doing everything in your best ability to stay clean, have a nice stack, RNG does not comply sometimes, give you a long bar, and you don't want to absolutely destroy your stack. Game is immediately starting. So that is why you'll often see people take a single or two at the beginning, because they have to keep clean. Oh, and DAS management might be an issue there, but nice burn there actually will probably save him. Allow for him to put something into the left, then clean it up further. Balbar kind of just having a nice clean stack at the moment. another Tetris there is going to be very beneficial. Marcos getting a little rough. Beautifully gets that piece to the right. And another one to get the Tetris. To do that requires some extra special kind of play. Despite being droughted, Marcos was able to do that, being that high. Very exciting, beautiful play. Even most players actually wouldn't be able to get that over with Das. Oh, and a little misdrop there is going to cost him a burn line, but not the end of the world by any means. Has a little, probably parity to consider, and considers it perfectly with the pieces that he was given. And at 139,000, definitely keeping it close, only a Tetris difference despite that. To Svavar, and Svavar's going to nail Tetris there. And a beautiful S-spin to kind of just help downstack a little. I can say Marco's really just, despite RNG not being in his favor, absolutely running with what's given. Something that you would love to see. You love to see for the player. And both players scoring Tetrises there. Svavar at 253,000 has a little parity issue, but is going to resolve it pretty quickly. And takes the Tetris to be at 277,000 through 69 lines. And Marcos with that Tetris right there is going to be at 218,000 through 72 lines. So to win, all these matches are a best of 5, so each player would need, or a player would need 3 hearts to take the match. Oh, little hang there from Marco. It's gonna be a little tricky and tough. Like, immediately scores the Tetris there to lower the stack. So beautiful opportunity presented to him to really get out of this. He's doing just that. Definitely might be some of the most exciting play right now I've seen in a while. In terms of just like down stacking. It is costing him a little bit of efficiency. He's gonna nail Tetris though. So exciting to see when a player is able to really just take control of the down stack and get into a scenario where they can score Tetris just like that. I mean, the game wasn't making it easy for him at all, and still was able to. It looked easy for him, even though we all know for a fact that it's not. Just everything was with purpose, no hesitation really. That's, especially with DAS players, what really costs you. And we see Svavar, very clean stack, 487,000, once again, getting, we'll shoot for the 500k, and probably get there, even with lining it out, still 130 lines, where that Tetris hits 500k. Continuing to stack really cleanly and play very nicely. Some very smart flat burns there, as you could see. Was also kind of really doing everything in his power to have a clean stack. He has 2 more burn lines, so he's going to have a not awful stack going into the transition there at 325,000, and Tetris is immediately after. As you see, kind of creating an LJ dependency fills it. Things seem to be going rather well for him there post-transition, scoring a Tetris there, while Svavar is going to transition there at 541,000, but kind of getting a little rough RNG right before. I don't know how much he could do. Yeah, and Sauer's gonna top out at 544,000. So Morkos needs to get the 545,000 to be good. To be good for the game. So can't necessarily line it out, but doesn't have to be full aggressive either. It's enough of a lead where Morkos will have to actively try to pursue it in this chase down, not just line it out. 544 is the score you need. Oh, you can see the look, kind of the pain in his eyes there with that hesitation, and it's going to cause him to top out there. Unfortunately. Which will lead to Svavar taking game number 2. We have readies from both players, so let's just count them down already for the next game in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Morkos, in order to continue on in the tournament, will need a reverse sweep now, taking the next 3 games in a row. First sweeps are a very satisfying thing when they happen, not to you. Balbar with a spin setup, but misses the spin, unfortunately. He's going to set up for what looks like a dirty Tetris. Might be a little risky, and he's going to burn it down a little, getting just above an Xbox level. Morkos nailing the S-spin actually really gets him into a nice situation. Of the cleaner of the 2 boards. And a Tetris there. Much nicer situation. But it does have a couple holes. And he's going to resolve that by filling it. Beautiful burn to fill that. Balbar just taking the time to clean. Something that's necessary if you want long-term longevity in your game. Things are getting a little high for Morkos, so we can see how long to be able to last here. I just need some really nice pieces to accommodate. Beautifully gets the long bar all the way to the left. And with that, is I can dig out of that. And nailed Tetris there. But yeah, 117,000. And Svavar, if you look over on his board now, is clean. Solve that kind of gross situation that he was in. And he's gonna nail Tetris. 108,000. So despite all that, is only Tetris behind. And Svavar with that Tetris into the lead. Now Morkos kind of just waiting for the long bar again. Finally gets it, doesn't get drafted too much. He's gonna nail the Tetris. 174,000 from Morkos to 178,000 for Svavar. And we have a Tetris there for Svavar, bringing things up to 202,000 through 68 lines. So his pace is not what it was in the previous 2 games, but it's still a pretty good situation for grand scheme of things. 226,000 for Svavar to 243 for Morkos. Morkos having a pretty nice game. Able to be in the lead for comfortably most of it. Due to how the game started for both players. But as we know in Tetris, one drought can change things. One misdrop can change the whole dynamic of a match. Both these players are well aware of that and have experienced it throughout their careers. Tetris can beautiful, actually, probably well needed pole vault there. Morgul's getting very high with that spire being right there in the middle. Is nice piece. Downstack this ASAP. And it's getting the pieces to do just that. A little difficult. Not an impossible solve. Doing just that, playing the pieces flat. Very unironic 200 IQ plays. They're just for nail another Tetris. It did allow for Svavar to kind of push a little further. Have a cleaner stack and also be behind by about 10 lines now. So yes, while Morkles does have the higher score at the moment, the head in line will allow for Svavar to kind of adjust as necessary. Just taking a Tetris there. And another one there. 420,000 points through 124 lines. With the transition looming in 6 lines, just has to be a little careful now. While Svavar has 11 lines and a little rough situation. But it's some beautiful pieces to resolve that situation. And just needs a long bar now to score the Tetris, and has one more available Tetris before transition, but it's going to take the single. Transitions at 394,000 and a Tetris there right after transition. So we're at 474,000 for Morkos through 138 lines, to Svavar at 419,000 through 135 lines. So Morkos currently ahead, but does have a narrow enough lead where definitely has to just keep fully playing throughout this and or to give up a whole bunch. Our Tetris ready, Morgul's Tetris ready. Both players are in good situation, and a Tetris there for Svavar, but a Tetris there for Morgul's. Morgul's has a little rough board though, so parity is definitely not ideal, and just the whole board setup is not ideal, but getting some very nice pieces to resolve this. Very nice post-transition play will be in order for Svavar to take this. Well, as he's down by a little over a Tetris now. A Tetris there for Svavar. Kind of just making the most out of the situation. First real opportunity to take the lead with this drought from Morkles. Morkles is going to take the drought back into his hands with that long bar and score a Tetris. Balbar getting perfect pieces for what his board was looking like, and he's gonna nail the Tetris. But Morkles is gonna nail the Tetris despite kind of looking like a Gaussian distribution at the moment. I was able to score Tetris there. Board is a little high for 19 DAS play, but getting some perfect stuff there. We are neck and neck in this game, and Svavar making it even clearer with a neck and neck situation. And scores a Tetris to take the lead, while Morkles, beautiful pole vault there, and just surviving. Needs to survive. Don't know how much longer hang in there. And with that, Morkos unfortunately is going to top out 658,000. So Svavar will take game number 3 and take the sweep. So GG Svavar, and you'll be advancing to the semifinals to play the winner of Peak Eric at Martin. So we can get that scene set up. Oh, And we are all set up for the next matchup between Eric and Matt Martin. So this is going to be a very exciting matchup between here. Matt Martin being the 27th seed was because having a lower qualifying score. Fully because of that, but demonstrated throughout the first part of the tournament by just going through players like very nicely and defeating Jeff to move on to the top 8. And Peak, well, we all know Peak as a player who's very strong. And we have a ready from Peak. Ready then from Matt, and we have a ready from Matt Martin. So let's count them down for game number 1 in this set. In 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Both players in this matchup are pretty well known in the community. Matt Martin, one of the nicest people in the community, one of the, I guess, just like, you know, out of the veterans that actively stream, definitely has a very nice community. And Eric, well, absolutely showing dominance in the community as lately. Peak was the winner of the first DAS tournament hosted on Chrissy Ford's channel back in, a few months ago now, where I was lucky enough to commentate over that with Heist. Absolutely just was able to do so much. And is a very talented player. But both players here really are just profound members of the community, are very active, can do quite a lot in this. I think we've seen it through the first few rounds of the tournament, and as well as in their other performances. And a massive zebra with a subscription to Classic Tetris. Thank you so much. I'm sure everyone on the channel appreciates it. One thing that's kind of looking a little rough with Peak stack right now is that long bar dependency, but actually resolving that pretty well. The best looking stack, but getting out of it to definitely clean up. Matt is just running off right now, having a beautiful time. 170,000 through 41 lines. And Peak at 117,000 through 44. So despite looking like a little messy at a point or at a part, he actually is managing to keep it very nice. He'll score. Matt Martin at 220,000 through 54 lines. A pretty nice peak, or pretty nice pace. Peak 153,000 through 59 lines. Definitely not as ideal, but is still able to do a little bit with it. And with a cleaner board, probably could demonstrate why they are one of the higher seeds in the tournament. Nonetheless, both players are showing off why they deserve to be here. Hopefully we'll push each other to their limits. Really show love he showed us through this tournament. Matt Martin, a very clean board, 320,000. Pretty clean board now as well. At 234,000, so it is about a a little under 100,000 point game, but it's still anyone's game with the whole transition that hasn't happened yet. Both players have a little hiccup in their stack, but Matt was able to resolve that very nicely. And Peak also did. And the Tetris there for Peak is going to make things even nicer. One thing that Peak's been doing a lot of recently is restreaming Classic Tetris League. And has been definitely showing others how to like improve their restreaming abilities by his amazing restreams, but also has the skills of the player to really have the true duality and really make the experience that much more impressive all around. At 323,000, he's managed to kind of really clean things up. But Matt Martin absolutely going to town, 468,000 through 114 lines, having a pretty good pace right now. Needs a long bar, so he doesn't have to burn. But is opting to take a couple of singles, very smart, very conservative play. And that long bar comes to take a Tetris. Just needs 7,000 points to hit 500k. A good metric. And with that Tetris, going to hit 517,000 and still has one potential Tetris before transition. And Peak has the Tetris setup, and with that Tetris is going to transition at 399,000. Matt with that Tetris is going to transition at 543,000. So we're off to the races now into the true exciting play of where anything can happen, especially with DAS. And beautiful Tetris setup there for Matt Martin. Has another one set up and is going to nail it. Meanwhile, Peak has a little bit of burning to do. Creating a long bar dependency, though, is going to cause a little bit of a headache, I would say so myself. And now is not really that accommodating for parity. So it has to really take that into consideration now, too, with when the pieces he's given. But man, he's just absolutely running with it. Setting up perfectly. So a couple more burn lines to be really back into a Tetris scoring setup, and he's going to nail the Tetris there. So 459,000 for Peak to 672,000 for Matt Martin. It is still a very close game. Yeah, Peak has such a command over DAS for not being a DAS player. Very impressive. We saw this throughout the first DAS tournament that Chrissy hosted. Now we're seeing that here once again. Little hesitation, though, is going to be a little dangerous. But he gets the long bar and scores the Tetris, and he's tucked. He's just going to keep going. Meanwhile, Matt Martin threw, with that Tetris, 747,000. Long bar, but it's starting to get a little dependent, but nails the Tetris, 780,000. Very, very nice pace for Matt so far for post-transition play as well. Another Tetris there for Matt Martin, 815,000. Peak is playing so extremely well after this transition, but Matt is just also playing extremely well to the point where even no matter what Peak's doing, the deficit going into transition is what is causing this to be where it is. And with that Tetris, Matt Martin is at 861,000 points. Has the potential to max this out, given some good pieces. That will hit 899,000 going into level 28. So it is very difficult to max from here, but possible with a kill screen Tetris. Peak just surviving now. Taking a few singles, few doubles there, and both players hit kill screen. And Matt Martin takes it at 946,000. So let's give Matt Martin a heart, the first of the game, first of the match. There. So GG's to both players. We have a ready from Peak. Just need a ready from Matt. We already have one. We have a ready from Matt, so let's count them down. Both players looking forward to winning this next one. Count down in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Yeah, Martin getting a lot of long bars to start things off. Unfortunately, not having the board to really do anything with them, being that he just started the game. Nonetheless, is stacking pretty well, given those. Peak's looking for any opportunity to steal this match. Has the ability to, definitely has the pedigree as a player. And, you know, I think definitely being able to take a match from Matt Martin would be beautiful for his resume as a player. Matt Martin taking a Tetris there is going to kind of, hopefully, eventually be able to transfer the well for him. And a Tetris there for Matt Martin. Is going to take the triple there to transfer the well. Smart play there. And probably the safest play. No worries about ignorance there. It is an abbreviation that is not explicitly spelled out there, so you're more than welcome to ask. LYMYMI stands for Love You, Miss You, Mean It. It was a phrase that started to be used from Jonas and Heather after their playthrough of Soma. It was a thing that was left in a voice recording in the game on like a little answering machine, and since then the Tetris community has adopted it to use it as a phrase to remember, pay respects to Jonas Neubauer. Jonas was a man who touched all of us in the community and provided a place for us to feel welcome, safe, courage to do what we love. The least we can do in this community is give back to others in the community and as well to him by helping out. There is a GoFundMe, and if you use !GoFundMe in the chat, you'll be pointed towards that, where you could donate money if you wish, help out the family, Heather and the rest of the family. Oh, and Matt Martin's gonna top out at 153,000. So Peak's already good for game number 2 then. Let's give Peak his heart. Pretty rough drought there for Matt, but it happens in this game. The RNG's a cruel mistress after all. Both players are ready. Let's count them down then for game number 3. In 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Now the players are not using same piece set. Just random RNG for both players, so it happen, like early top outs might happen for one person and not the other because of the RNG being different. You might ask, oh, how do players playing with DAS play so aggressive? Well, they're actually good. A good DAS player can keep up, compete with a lot of aggression of very prominent tappers. It's just the average DAS player doesn't have the best DAS management when it comes to it. So players you see making it this far have near perfect DAS management skills. They are not, immune to a misdrop here or there. Matt with a little Spire is gonna work around that and score Tetris. Yeah, 133,000 through 36 lines. Meanwhile, Peak having a little bit of a downstacking situation. At 113,000 through 35 lines, it's gonna just continue to lower this. Definitely an evenly paced and evenly matched up game. So both players obviously demonstrating why they're here. Matt setting up a Tetris, nailing it down to be at 206,000. Peak does have a little bit to work with, but now Tetris ready, and it's going to nail that Tetris there. They'll also have a well transfer, and it's going to do so perfectly. And Matt Martin's also going to take a Tetris there and gets a beautiful piece to accommodate the square dependency. Both players just putting on a masterclass of delayed auto shift right now. Matt, both players actually kind of on pace. The transition very similar. It's a very similar situation. Matt with a couple of burn lines did have to sacrifice a little bit of his pace, but he's a player that can definitely make it up through the second half of pre-transition. Through the second 65 lines. And a Tetris there for Matt Martin, bringing up 293,000, but Tetris for Peak's gonna keep it really close. We're within a Tetris now. And a Tetris there for Matt, but Matt's kind of getting a little dependent. Column 3. And a beautiful long bar from RNGs that's right there to really help things out. Still has a hole in row 1, but nonetheless, doing the best he can in the situation. And Peak also in a little bit of a dig, knowing that his dig really dependent on his DAS management and able to perfectly manage that, knowing that he couldn't put a piece there no matter what. Matt with a couple Tetrises, keeping it in the lead by about a Tetris. A little under between the two players. So it's definitely going to be a competitive post-transition if both players keep it up at this rate. A beautiful Tetris there, a beautiful tuck and Tetris from Matt. And a beautiful setup for a Tetris there from Peak, keeping it exactly where it was once again. And Matt Martin with the Tetris there, 432,000, has a couple more available Tetrises before transition. While Peak has also a couple more available. And take Tetris there, bring it to 423,000, and a beautiful tuck of the L. Matt Martin's going to transition at 459,000. Smart burns there to start things off for Matt in his transition, keeping it slightly in the lead for the second game. And a Tetris there for Matt, while Peak has a little bit of burning to do, has 2 lines to burn, and he's going to score a Tetris. With a flat T placement there, really smart skim. Gonna allow for him to kind of have a little more comfortable situation than Peak does at the moment, as Peak has to do a little bit of burning. Well, Matt Martin's gonna take another Tetris to actually take a much more definitive lead going into level 21. And another Tetris there for Matt. While Peak's board looking a little rough, not something he can't get out of. It's just going to be a little more challenging, as Peak is a very good DAS player despite not being a primarily DAS player. Able to use his knowledge of both styles to enhance his DAS ability, but does not get distracted about where things can go using his playstyle. This is a must-know scenario if you are a player who uses both app and DAS in your, normal playing. And he's able to dig out of this, playing some beautiful B-type right there. But unfortunately for Peak, it's going to allow for Matt to really kind of just score quite a bit. Being at 627,000, and is going to nail Tetris there to go up to 658. But Peak is clean. Peak is out of that horrendous situation that he was in moments ago. But once again, kind of in a little dig. And guess what? He's out of that dig already. Peak has been absolutely demonstrating some of his dig ability. Just absolutely beautiful. Well, unfortunately, it's going to lead to him topping out at 593,000. Matt Martin is good for game number 3 and is going to take his second heart of this match. He demonstrated some serious survival skills there. We have a ready from Matt Martin already for the next one, and a ready for Peak, and some shows of sportsmanship there from Matt. So let's count them down for game number 4 in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Peak really just looking to kind of even the odds there, to get to a point where he can force the decider, force a game 5. Both of these players, honestly, to get to that point, run with it, because they are both equally skilled and both have vast knowledge of this game. have done quite a lot over their years of playing. If you're definitely starting off at this game and are new to Classic Tetris scene and you want to play as a DAS player, watching a player like Matt Martin would be an amazing thing to do to just broaden your understanding of the game and what you can't do, the DAS playstyle. Tetris there for Peak. It's gonna take him into the lead by 3,000 points at the own. It's getting a little high, but Matt's getting really nice pieces there, and I think that he can get out of this with RNG that he's given. And while Matt was cleaning out of that, Peak actually was able to take quite a bit of the lead, being at 191,000, and a beautiful adjustment there for Peak Eric. And 191,000 to 136,000 for Matt Martin, and Matt Martin's going to knock down Tetris though to bring it even closer. Peak Eric, on the other hand, kind of getting some rough RNG for what his board has right now. Needs a long bar to fill that long bar dependency, and it also is going to burn. Gonna take a beautiful Tetris. Peak Eric at the moment does have quite the lead, about a 60,000 point lead. But with that Tetris there for Matt Martin's going to take a much nicer, closer lead, or deficit, sorry. But there, Peak is clean. Peak needs a long bar now. Is Tetris ready? While Matt Martin at 66 lines, 251,000, just wants a long bar to kind of just bring it even closer. But Peak there is going to score 316,000, but Matt Martin's going to take a Tetris there to go to 278,000. We are pretty much in a dead heat at the moment, just kind of keeping it within a Tetris. But the Tetris there for Peak. That Martin's stack is getting a little bit risky, but got some perfect pieces there that kind of just pare it down a little and scores a Tetris. Yeah, Martin absolutely demonstrating just a relaxed, cool demeanor there to score. Going to take the Tetris. 441,000 for Peak Eric through 101 lines. A very good pace for Peak to be at. And Matt Martin at 401,000 through 105 lines now. Matt Martin, beautiful tuck setup, and it's gonna nail Tetris there. 114 lines, 428,000. But Peak has a very dominant pace at the moment. Matt Martin pushing himself up there very high. Getting some really nice pieces to work there though. If Peak is able to squeeze out 2 more Tetris, and as I say that, only now has 1 available Tetris and is going to transition at 568,000. Matt Martin transitions 470. So we have about 100,000 point game now for Peak in his favor. Matt Martin, though, very clean, and is going to nail that Tetris there to go into level 21. Beautiful adjustment there from Matt to prevent the misdrop. Peak having an absolute beauty of a transition and trying to take advantage of that now. 638,000. Kind of getting some not amazing pieces for his board, but doesn't want to build up that right side a little too high or anything. And he's gonna nail the Tetris. 667,000 now. Peak getting up there pretty high, but was able to get out of that. A little nicer pieces. Well, Matt Martin getting out too of a pretty high dig. Oh, but Peak's gonna top out with 675,000. So Matt needs to get to 676,000, and he can take the set. Thank you, Pumpy Heart, for putting that there. So a couple Tetrises will do it for Matt Martin. Oh, and he was able to quick tap that over and score the Tetris. Absolutely phenomenal play there from Matt Martin. Yeah, with that Tetris is going to advance to the semifinals and will play Svavar. So we will now GG's, Matt. Congratulations. GG's Peak. Peak, you really played some solid Tetris there. And I'm very thankful to have had you in this tournament. So now we are just going to continue and quick check the bracket and set up the next scene. Let's go refresh the bracket. So as you can see, the updated bracket is the semifinals will be Jesper against Quaid, which will be happening next, and Svavar and Matt Martin, which will follow immediately after that match, and then the winners will converge in the finals.